Dave wasn't able to get to his son Johnny's basketball game because of work. And just as he was getting ready to leave work, he did get a phone call from Johnny's coach. Dave and Coach B had been longtime friends. "I had to call you to tell you how great Johnny played tonight." Coach B proceeded to tell Dave all about Johnny's outstanding performance. You see, Johnny's a sophomore on the varsity team, and while he makes some mistakes, he has the potential to become a top-ranked player. And what do you think Dave will say to Johnny when he sees his son later that night at home? Quiz time. What's the first essential habit of prayer in the school of prayer? Do you know? Do you remember? Acknowledge. And acknowledge what? Our thoughts, our feelings, our desires, the movements of the heart. And we must simply acknowledge those movements, not to judge, critique, or analyze. There is, I have to warn, a danger. We can become like the crowd in the gospel today who, as John tells us, murmured about Jesus because of what he said. We might wonder, what did my feeling have to do with me saying prayers? Aren't we taught to be wary of our feelings and our desires, maybe not even to trust them? Well, when we do, the tendency is then when those feelings that are scary arise in our lives, we tend to run away from them because we don't like how they feel, we don't like what we see. And then there's the other danger that we get so caught up in the movements of our hearts that we become a bit narcissistic. You know the story of Narcissus. He saw his reflection in the pond and became so enamored with himself that he fell in and drowned. It's necessary, therefore, to go beyond acknowledgement. And we can't stay there. We mustn't stay there. Jesus says to the crowd, "Stop murmuring among yourselves. Everyone who listens to my Father and learns from him comes to me." So in the school of prayer, the second essential habit is to relate. Relate all that is in the heart and relate it all back to God. We must take all that's in our hearts to him. We must entrust our hearts to God. So go back to that opening story. What do you think Dave said to Johnny? Do you think he might have said, "I heard you had a great game. Way to go"? Or might he have said, "So tell me about your game. How well did you play?" If you chose the second, you understand the need to relate. You see, God is like a father who, even though he already knows what has happened, even though he knows what's in our hearts, he wants to hear us tell that story. God is the father who wants you to tell him all the details of your life, your successes and your failures. God wants you to know that he is present here and now, a real person who takes a serious interest in what's going on in your life. That's why I like to say, especially to the kids when I ask about things that, who does this in your life and who does that? And they answer God. I say, yeah, God, but certainly who's the person? Jesus. Jesus was a real person. He really lived. And it's to him that we need to relate all that we have. You see, because you have to remember that prayer really, first and foremost, is about a relationship. It's a two-way street. It's a mutual loving and knowing. And God initiates that relationship by calling us into his divine love, where we can and will find peace and joy, healing and forgiveness. So your homework this week is to take those movements of your heart, your thoughts, your feelings, your desires, the good, the bad, the ugly, the peace, the joy, the anger, the frustration, the fear, the sadness, the pain, and relate all of that to God. Share all of that with God. Tell him about it. Tell Jesus about it. You can do that anywhere, anytime, but I suggest the best place to do that really is in front of the Blessed Sacrament. Eucharistic adoration every Wednesday, a great place to have a word with God. Remember what Jesus said, I am the living bread that came down from heaven. Whoever eats this bread will live forever. And the bread that I give is my flesh for the life of the world. He really is present here with us, and he wants to hear your story. Don't forget, quiz next week.